Well, good evening. Well, good evening, everyone who ventured out in this evening's heat for coming out to the meeting tonight to find out some more information about Pay As You Throw. I'd also like to thank all the viewers at home who will be watching this over the coming weeks. Thank you for giving this your time and attention. This is an important transition for Brattleboro, and we appreciate you tuning in. I am Assistant Town Manager Patrick Moreland. I'm here tonight with Moss Kahler, and we're going to be talking a little bit about the Pay As You Throw system. I am aware that in years past, Brattleboro has debated the interest and the value of Pay As You Throw. Those days are behind us. With the passage of Act 148, the Vermont State Legislature has made Pay As You Throw the law of the land. And so we have a program for Brattleboro that Moss is going to describe. And while we're here, he'll take some time and talk a little bit about two other existing programs in town that have been around for quite some time, that being recycling and composting. And the reason that these three programs are so interrelated is that for folks who are new to Pay As You Throw and are seeking to help keep their costs down, we understand that the most successful way to do that is to become an expert recycler and an expert composter. So with that, I'm going to turn the floor over to Moss Kahler, and we'll be here this evening to help answer any questions you may have.
All right, thanks, Patrick. As Patrick mentioned, my name's Moss Kahler. I've been hired by the town since last July through this coming October to help develop and roll out Pay As You Throw and help with public meetings and education and answer people's questions and try to get everybody ready for Pay As You Throw, which starts on June 29th. Over here on the table we have a bunch of literature I think most of you have picked up. And for you folks at home who can't pick up the literature, and if there's a question you have that has not been answered tonight or does not get answered tonight in this next hour or so, you can call the town offices and ask your question. You can email solidwaste@brattleboro.org, solid waste, one word, at brattleboro.org, and pose your questions. You can also send your interest in picking up a curbside cart and any other questions you have about Pay As You Throw or recycling or curbside compost. I'm going to very briefly go over the pieces of paper that are on this table, and then we'll talk in more detail about them. If the first one is this booklet titled Recycling, Composting, and Trash Disposal. If you're a Brattleboro resident, and I'm guessing that all of you are, you should have received this in the mail in the last month or so, and if you haven't, you definitely should pick one up, because this booklet, of all the literature on the table, contains the most comprehensive information about Pay As You Throw, about recycling, about curbside composting, and about disposal of other items at Wyndham Solid Waste Management District that you wouldn't put in a curb. So this is a booklet that you should put in a drawer at home and try to remember where it is and consult it from time to time. This sheet has two sides. One side is a listing of items that are accepted in the curbside compost program, and the other side is a description of what is accepted in recycling. It's just one piece of paper each, so it can't answer every single item that you might have a question about, but it's certainly a good guide and a good start. And these lists on this piece of paper are also in the booklet. Then there's a sheet that's stapled together. It's 3 pages, and the title is Curbside Compost, Frequently Asked Questions. And one of the things I'm going to talk about tonight for a while, besides the specifics of Pay As You Throw and the Pay As You Throw trash bags, is try to explain to you why Curbside Compost Program is such a great service that the town offers to people on the curbside pickup route, and how it can reduce the number of Pay As You Throw bags you buy. And this sheet has, these 3 sheets have some specific information about curbside compost that people often ask. This colorful sheet was in the town-wide mailing. I only bring it tonight because we have some left over. There's no specific information on here that's particularly critical, but there's a number of quotes from people who have been doing curbside compost and who really love the program, and it's sort of a PR piece of paper touting the advantages of curbside compost. These two colorful sheets are produced by our partner Waste Zero. Waste Zero is the company who is making our pay-as-you-throw bags, and they will be distributing them to the stores. And I'll talk more specifically about the bags in just a moment. But these two sheets, this one talks about creating your home recycling center. And it could be easily titled Creating Your Home Recycling / Compost Center. And it has some good ideas. You may already have a good system working in your house, but I would suggest you pick it up and read it, and it might give you some new ideas to have a more efficient system that works for you in your house. And this last one is Brattleboro, reduce your junk mail by 50% or more. And I know at this day and age of emails, about the only mail I get is either bills or junk mail. And I certainly want to try some of these techniques that Waste Zero's put together to try to reduce my junk mail, and it's some pretty good ideas right there. This sheet, I'm getting almost done to the bottom here, is put out by Wyndham Solid Waste Management District, and it's a list of the fees of items, common items that they take. This is on Old Ferry Road. This could be, they'll take household trash, they could take appliances, furniture, mattresses, motor oil, tires, broken appliances, I said motor oil, almost anything. Some of the items are for free, and most of them do have a charge, and the cost of the different items is on there, and also the phone number for Wyndham Solid Waste. If you have any specific questions about, I have an item and I don't know where it goes, they'll be able to answer your question. Now lastly, and now I'm going to stay on this piece of paper for a little bit longer. This one is titled Pay-as-you-throw Basic Information. And this has the bare bones information that you need to know about pay-as-you-throw. And I already mentioned it's going to start on June 29th. That's a Monday, and everybody gets their trash picked up on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. And so whatever day of the week is your pickup day of that week of June 29th, that's the first day that you're going to have to put your trash out for pickup in a pay-as-you-throw trash bag. And we're going to have two sizes, and I'm going to go untape these because I'm not sure the camera can catch the angle of these bags very well. There are two sizes, and two colors. There's a yellow, smaller pay-as-you-throw bag. This is shaped like your typical white kitchen bag that many of you may use in your house. It's the same dimensions and holds the same volume. Both pay-as-you-throw trash bags are drawstring bags, which most people like, and so that's what we thought, since most people use them, that's what people would appreciate in their pay-as-you-throw bag. So this yellow one holds about 13 to 15 gallons, and it's going to cost $2. The larger one is purple, and we chose purple because that's the color, purple and white, of the Brattleboro Colonels and BUHS, and so we thought we would have pay a little homage to the high school sports teams by choosing purple. This is your standard 32-gallon trash bag. Once again, it's drawstring, and it costs $3. Now these bags are going to be sold in rolls of 5. And so a roll of the small yellow bag will be 5 bags at $2. That'll be $10 for a roll of 5 small bags. It'll be $15 for a roll of large purple bags. And you can buy these bags at these locations. And there may be more locations added as the months go by. But for right now, I'm going to mention the stores who have committed to stocking and selling pay-as-you-throw trash bags. And they are, trying to start from one end of the town and go the other, Price Chopper, the Brattleboro Food Co-op, and Dottie's Discount Foods, Hannaford, those are our big grocery stores. Then also Brown & Roberts Hardware Store downtown, Fireside True Value Hardware Store on Putney Road, and in West Brattleboro, Cumberland Farms, the gas station convenience store. So that's 7 locations in town where you'll be able to buy rolls of pay-as-you-throw trash bags. Now, if for some reason you would like to buy fewer bags than 5, you want to buy 1 or 2, maybe you're going on vacation for the summer, or you're moving to Florida for the summer, and you need just 1 more bag to put out your trash before you hop on the plane and head south, and you don't want to buy a whole roll. You can buy individual bags in 2 locations. Right here in the municipal building, almost directly below us in the treasurer's office, and also in the Gibson-Aiken Center, which is the building across from the post office, just a little ways down the street, either downstairs in the senior center or on the first level up the stairs at the Recs Department office. So there's 2, actually 3 locations where you can buy a single bag or 2. I'm sure you could buy a roll of bags as well. But they're set up specifically for selling bags for people who don't want to buy an entire roll. And I think that's mostly it. I'm sure there'll be more questions that come along. I do want you to understand that on June 29th and from there on out for the coming years, if your trash is put out in a black hefty bag or a white Glad kitchen bag, the driver is going to put a sticker on it and leave it at the curb. He's only going to take pay-as-you-throw trash bags. Yes, Patrick?
Moss, when can folks expect to see these bags in these stores?
Exactly. June 15th is when the stores will have the bags. Some stores may have them sooner, but I wouldn't necessarily go bugging the manager for the pay-as-you-throw trash bags. I would suggest you wait till June 15th. That gives you 2 weeks from June 15th until June 29th to buy your first pay-as-you-throw trash bags. And you got to keep in mind there's going to be a big rush at first because nobody in the entire town at the moment has trash bags. And so the stores are going to have a flood of people for that first 2 weeks buying pay-as-you-throw trash bags. And then, of course, it'll even out and there won't be a rush anymore.
So
Yes?
what happened to the,
Could you stand to the mic, please? Yeah. Just so the people at home can hear.
okay, what happened to the people that who have the trash bags? What they will do with it?
The old trash bags?
Yeah.
That's a good question.
Well, like me and
Yeah.
my wife, we have the old trash bag. That's why I want to find out
Yeah.
what to put.
Well, in my household, this is the trash from my own house from last week, and I collect our trash in a kitchen can in these white bags. And we do a pretty good job of recycling and composting, and so I'm probably not going to put trash out every week. I'm going to put this bag, more than one of these bags, maybe 3, 4, or 5 weeks worth of trash into one pay-as-you-throw trash bag. So there's nothing that says that you can't put a Glad or Hefty bag into a pay-as-you-throw trash bag and then put that at the curb. But what the driver has to see and pick up is a pay-as-you-throw trash bag. In other ways you could use up your bags. If you have clothes that you've outgrown or outdated or whatnot, you can put clothes in plastic bags and take them to one of the Planet Aid containers around town, or to Experience Goods. If you have some items that are not appropriate for the curbside program and you're going to be taking them to Wyndham Solid Waste on Old Ferry Road, you can take them there. If you really have just a lot of bags that you feel like I'm never going to use these up, you could give them to a friend who doesn't live in Brattleboro, who doesn't have to buy a special pay-as-you-throw trash bag. I would hope that you're not going to be using them as quickly, but I would suspect that over a period of time you'll find a use for them. Now, one of the main purposes, besides asking specific questions or answering specific questions about pay-as-you-throw, is I want to talk to you about how you can reduce the amount of trash that you produce at your household and buy fewer pay-as-you-throw trash bags. I mentioned this is the trash from my house. I'm kind of a nut about this, and for almost a year, actually all told over a year, I've been standing on a scale with my trash, and I look at the weight, and then I put the bag down, and I look at my weight, and then I do the math, and it tells me how much my trash weighs. But I also weigh my recycling, and I also weigh my composting. Now, my household is a household of two, my wife and I, who teaches at Guilford School. We have a college-age son who's home now and then. So we're sometimes 3 people in the house and sometimes 2 people in the house. Now, this past weekend was Memorial Day weekend, and my son was home for 2 days with a college friend. So there were 4 of us there for part of the week. And for this last week, our trash weighed a total of 1.5 pounds. Now, earlier this winter, I put 5 weeks worth of trash into a pay-as-you-throw trash bag, and it weighed 17 pounds. Our trash, recycling, and compost at our house is pretty consistent. We have about 30 to 33 pounds of all these things every week. And the average weight of our trash every week is less than 4 pounds. And so the recycling weight at our household is about just under 90%. 90% of what we produce and have to dispose of does not go in the landfill. And I want to explain another strong reason why I would like you all to make your best effort to reduce the amount of trash that you put in pay-as-you-throw bags. The number one reason, or let's say the most selfish reason, would be, hey, I want to save money on pay-as-you-throw bags. But this is not just about your wallet, though that's a big component. It's also about the environment. What happens with trash now, on this piece of paper, I don't know if the TV can see it, but trash costs $105 a ton to bury into the landfill. And when Triple T drives around town and fills up their truck with the trash, they take it down to 142, and then it gets put into a much bigger container, 40 cubic yards. They really jam-pack it full of trash. I don't know how many tons it weighs, but it must be many, 30 or 40 tons or something like that. They truck that trash 150 miles from Brattleboro. They drive to Coventry, Vermont, and it gets buried in the landfill. And the town of Brattleboro, the taxpayers, get charged $105 a ton to bury it in the landfill. Then that big truck, that big diesel truck, drives 150 miles back to Brattleboro with an empty truck. And the slogan or the catchword's carbon footprint is becoming a key word that people are hearing over and over again. That's a really, really, really big carbon footprint to drive that trash 150 miles and pay $105 a ton. Recycling, I didn't do a very good job with my magic marker here, but recycling costs $0 a ton. And it gets driven to Old Ferry Road. So the round trip, instead of a round trip of 300 miles, is a round trip of maybe 5 miles or 10 miles, depending on where from Brattleboro, in Brattleboro, they headed to Old Ferry Road. So that's a very small footprint, and it costs the taxpayer $0 a ton. The other choice that you have, and I'm hoping that you all give it strong consideration, is our curbside compost program. There is a fee for it. The town gets charged $60 a ton for the wind and solid waste, and that's where our compost is taken. It's picked up at the curb. It's taken to Old Ferry Road, and they have to turn the pile and screen it and manage it. They have to meet regulations from the state of Vermont for composting to make sure that compost meets state regulations to be sold to the public when it's a finished product. And there's a cost involved. So that's $60 a ton. It's still considerably less than $105 a ton. So this is a big savings. And once again, the carbon footprint of driving that's only 5-10 miles or so compared to 300. So not only are you saving money on pay-as-you-throw trash bags, if you can reduce your trash and start aiming for that 75, 80, 85% recycling rate, you're saving a carbon footprint in the environment. You're keeping our landfill space to last longer and have less food scraps and organics buried in it. The curbside compost program is voluntary. It's now state law that you have to recycle, and it's been a town ordinance in Brattleboro since the mid-1990s that you have to recycle. And that doesn't mean everybody does a really good job of it. Many people do a great job, but I rode the trash truck a couple years ago, and I rode the trash truck a lot, and I slung a lot of bags into the back of that truck. And I can tell you categorically that there are many people in Brattleboro who could do a better job of recycling. And surprisingly, it's the bottles and cans they seem to do a good job with, and it's the paper items, which I would think would be the easier thing to recycle. You don't have to rinse out a paper box like you have to rinse out a can, and it didn't have food in it, so you don't have to worry about odor or anything like that. But people, believe me, maybe you, maybe not, but many people in Brattleboro could do a better job of recycling. The curbside compost is voluntary, but we've had a townwide program now since May of 2013, so just over 2 years. And there's about a little bit over 1,000, maybe 1,000 or 1,100 people in town who are families, not individuals, families who are participating in the curbside compost program. And just recently, in the last few weeks, we've had about another probably 400 people join that program. And I suspect we'll have many more yet. One thing that a lot of people are hesitant about recycling or about curbside composting is they think, oh, that's disgusting. You expect me to keep all my food in a, like a can on my kitchen counter or in a cabinet? That's just sort of yucky. And won't it stink and smell and be slimy and bugs and whatnot? But if you don't compost now, and I don't know about the people in the room, but people at home too, if you don't compost now, where do you throw your food scraps? So you throw them in the trash with all your other trash items. That's where it goes. And how many times have you experienced, your trash can's only maybe a third or a half full, and you say, oh my God, the trash stinks because maybe some chicken fat got thrown in there, or killer onions, or fish, or who knows what is in that trash, and you tie up that trash bag and go put it in your trash can, even though it's not full, because the odor's driving you crazy. When you do curbside composting and you start handling your food scraps separately from the rest of your food scraps, you aren't throwing them into a 15 or a 30 gallon trash can. You're throwing your food scraps in your kitchen into a small container, and it could be smaller than this. This is a plastic container, a closed container that they sell at Wyndham Solid Waste Management District. Of the manufactured containers that's made specifically for collecting kitchen food scraps, this is probably the best one going. It's easy to wash out. It's got a little handle for tipping. It's got a vented lid, and don't panic at that. I'll explain the holes later. It's got a good latch, so if it falls over, it doesn't fall open. It's just very, very well made, and they sell these at Wyndham Solid Waste Management for $10. This is another unique container, and you can see right through it. So imagine using this container and putting your coffee grounds and vegetable peelings in it and whatnot. They're going to fall right through and end up on your kitchen counter, which is kind of ridiculous, which is why this container is made and must be used with a compostable bag. Now this bag, for all visual purposes, looks like a plastic bag, but it's made out of a food starch product. And this bag has no plastic in it at all. It's 100% organic based. And it will break down eventually in the compost pile. But it won't break down over the course of 3 or 4 or 5 days on your kitchen counter. And this bag breathes. It breathes like Gore-Tex. And I know it breathes because I started using this container myself at home, and we stopped using it for the only reason that my wife thought it was unattractive and didn't like it on her kitchen counter. So we now use a solid container. Not this one exactly, but anyway, we use a closed container, and we still line it. We line that container with a compostable bag. And when that compostable bag gets full, and I take the food scraps out, and I put them into my curbside cart, there's a little bit of liquid that's migrated from the food scraps through the bag and collected in the bottom of our kitchen container. So that's how I know that moisture travels through the bag. So this container is designed with that to take advantage of that very thing. You put your food scraps in here, and we all know that there's a lot of moisture in food scraps, more in some than others, but almost all those food scraps have moisture in them. And that moisture passes through this plastic bag, and I assure you that the odor doesn't.
That's true.
Yeah, we use it.
Well, and it,
It's amazing.
yeah, it's amazing. You've heard it right here. It's true. I use it too, and it is amazing. And that's and the design is so that your food scraps are to some extent drying out as they're on your kitchen counter. Because when food scraps collected all by themselves, when they start to get pretty slimy or moldy or smelly, is because they're in a high moisture environment with little or no air. So when you have a closed container with a tight lid and food scraps in there, and it's all dark and wet and moist and warm, you're going to have to start things growing in there, and you might have odor problems. And that's why there's little holes in the top. There's little holes in the top of this one too. And so the reason I use the compostable bag in my closed container at home is not because I want to see a little moisture collected in the bottom, and my food's not really drying out because the moisture's all contained in here. The reason is when I pull the plastic or the compostable bag out and put it in my curbside cart, all I have to do is give this a quick rinse to rinse that liquid out. And if I didn't use this compostable bag, there'd be all kinds of food debris stuck in here. Coffee grounds, onion skins, vegetable peelings, whatever was thrown in there. You would empty it and there'd be food, there would be food stuck in there. And some people don't mind that. Some people, I think, actually relish in the fact that their containers get caked with food. That's not me, and I don't think that's most people. I like to keep it clean. So the ultimate advantage of these compostable bags is it keeps your kitchen container clean, and then when you take the food scraps out and you put your food scraps into your curbside container, still in the compostable bag, it keeps your curbside container clean too. Now there's a lot of items that will go in curbside compost that people go, I had no idea that I could put that into compost. You can put all your typical things that I've mentioned so far, your vegetable peelings, your banana peels, your coffee grounds, your tea bags, your mashed potatoes and whatnot. But what you can also put in curbside compost that you wouldn't put into a backyard compost pile are meat, whether it's cooked or raw, fish, whether it's cooked or raw, bones, kitty litter. You can put cat litter. It doesn't matter whether it's perfumed or the clumping kind, clay-based or wood-based, any kitty litter you can put into the curbside compost. And if you have a dog and you pick up after your dog, which the town ordinance, I believe, says you have to, there is a compostable doggy bag. This is not it, by the way, but I just want to hold up the compostable bag, I guess. But anyway, there is a BioBag. BioBag is the company that makes this particular bag. Glad also makes a compostable bag. And there are other companies. I believe it's Nature's Way makes a compostable bag. So there's a number of companies making it. But I know for a fact that BioBag makes pet waste bags out of the same material. And so you could pick up after your dog and put that into your curbside compost. If you had hamsters, rabbits, other pets, soiled newspaper on the bottom of your bird cage, you could all put that in the compost. So all those things, nuts, shells, lobsters, clams, shellfish, peach pits, all those things can go into the compost. But there's a ton of other stuff too. Paper plates can go in the curbside compost. Paper towels, paper tissues, paper napkins, paper cups can go in the compost. Q-tips, the ones with the cardboard stem. Don't throw the ones with the plastic stem. If there's one thing I want to make clear to all of you and everybody who's watching this at home, is there should be no plastic whatsoever. None. No plastic should go in your curbside compost, not even the smallest amount. And no glass and no metal. Now some people have different ways of collecting food scraps. They may collect their food scraps in just a little plastic tub like this. This is a Glad. I guess I'm pushing Glad tonight. But this is a Glad container. You could put your food scraps in here. But when it's full, don't put the whole kit and caboodle in your curbside compost. Empty out the food scraps and then rinse this, or you could rinse it and recycle it. Some people, and we're going to talk about this, this is a half and half milk carton. This is a quart, so you can buy all kinds of products, so usually dairy products or orange juice, in your typical cardboard carton. And this cardboard carton is compostable. This can go in your curbside compost. We do ask that you tear off the plastic spout. Now this is the last public meeting that we're doing before Pay As You Throw. We're still going to answer people's questions when they call us or write us or email us, but this is the last time I'm going to set up this display. So all along I've been saying to people in these meetings, I can't tear this plastic spout out totally because I have to use this in the next meeting. But you know what? This is the last meeting. So you tear the plastic spout out. I can finally do it. You tear the plastic spout out, put that in the trash, and you put this in the curbside compost. But this also makes a great container for collecting your food scraps. Whether it's and depending on the size of your household, this may be way, way, way too small. But if you live alone, it may be way, way, way just the right size. Just like Goldilocks and the Three Bears. This could be your compost container, or a half gallon. So you can put food scraps in that, and then when it's full, you put the whole thing, kit and caboodle, in there. Everything's clean, your cart's clean, and you have no yuck or mess around. What we do at my house, and you can do it any way you want, but we collect all these paper items. It's mostly paper towels and egg cartons and paper cups and things like that, Q-tips and whatnot. But I don't fill up my small kitchen container with the paper items for curbside compost because they're bulky. They tend to be bulky. Like this would be quite bulky. So I put these paper items in just a regular bucket. It happens to be a sheetrock bucket. It could be any bucket. It could be a paper bag. It could be any container. And when either one of them is full, when my sheetrock bucket's full of paper, compostables, or my kitchen container is full of food scraps, I take them both to my curbside cart and I put the paper items in first, and I put my compostable bag of food scraps on top of that. So I'm sort of making a layer. Paper items, food, paper items, food, paper items, food. And that keeps this cart pretty clean.
So you don't have a bag for that?
No. You can. BioBag, I told you BioBag makes several different kinds of compostable bag material. They make this small, I think it's a 2 or a 3 gallon size. They make a 13 gallon size that you could line this. They make the doggy bags. They're also, it's really cool, they're making Ziploc bags out of compostable materials. I would love to see the deli counter at Hannaford and Price Chopper slide their deli cheeses and meats into a compostable bag, or butcher paper, which is compostable, instead of that plastic bag. Because when you look at the trash from my house, this isn't one specific week. I picked specific items out, but this is an item that we have often. We buy lunch meat and we buy cheese from the deli counter, and so this is an item we have quite often that's in our trash. But to use compostable bags both in your kitchen container and to line your cart, I think would be not economically wise, because these bags are more expensive than a typical plastic bag. A bag of this Glad bag has 20 in it, I believe, 20 bags. I believe that the BioBag might have 25 bags in its box. I'm not sure if anyone knows. It's 20 to 25, and they cost about $4. I recommend that you use 2 bags a week. If your pickup is, say, on Tuesday, that on, say, Friday or Saturday, you empty out your kitchen container and you put in a new compostable bag. If you're using them, you don't have to use these compostable bags. There's no requirement. And we talked about the milk carton as an option. I'll talk about some other options. But then put in another. So you'll probably use on an average of 2 bags a week. So if you buy a box of 20 or 25, it's going to last, close to 3 months. So you can do the math. I suggest if you do curbside compost that you try it and see whether you like them or not. If you decide after your first box of bags it's going to last you a couple, 3 months, that's a pretty good test. And you can decide after that whether it's worth the expense to reduce the yuck factor by use of these, or you might say, I'm going to try some other things. I'm going to try the milk carton. You can also collect your food scraps in a paper bag. You can wrap it in newspaper. One great technique to do with particularly smelly items, if you have killer onions or you've trimmed some chicken fat, which can really start to go rancid and be a real odor problem pretty quick, or anything that's really smelly, you can wrap it in a piece of newspaper and put it in your freezer. And then when your collection day comes, the night before or the morning of, you just take it right out of your freezer and put it in your curbside cart. You could also wrap it in foil or plastic, but remember the foil or plastic can't go in here. So you'd have to try to get that frozen piece of meat. My wife, we had a bunch of meat in the freezer, a bunch of little pieces, and we finally, cleaning out the fridge, and she handed me about 6 blocks of thing wrapped up in tin foil, and I said, I really want to compost this, but I can't separate it from the tin foil. She said, just throw it in the trash. Throw it in the trash? It's like 3 pounds, a week's worth of weight just in those things. So what I did is I just put them in warm water for like 2 minutes, filled up the sink with the warm water, then the meat popped right out, and then I rinsed the foil, and I saved the foil because this is one of the great things that's going to be happening July 1st. Maybe you don't think pay-as-you-throw is great, and I would understand why you might think pay-as-you-throw is a bad thing that's happening. I don't think so. I think it's a great thing. But anyway, some people are going to say, yuck on pay-as-you-throw. But no one's going to argue about this one. Starting July 1st, we are taking tin foil and aluminum foil at the waste district to be recycled. So aluminum pie pans, aluminum baking pans. This was one that was folded up. This was some sheet foil that I've wadded up into a ball. Just make sure it's relatively clean. This one had a pie in it, and there's just a little tiny bit of food on the rim. That's fine. But if you had a big tray of lasagna, maybe at a big party, and it's just, you know what that's like when it's done. It's caked with food. Put that in the trash. Just clean foil, relatively clean. Someone in one of these public meetings said, it should be dishwasher clean. And I thought that was a great way to put it. How you sometimes rinse dishes before you put them in the dishwasher. That's how you should handle your items that you're going to put in recycling. If you have, this was a can of one pie for pumpkin pie, but rinse it out. And any container that had food in it, rinse it out. You don't have to wash it out with soap and water. No one's going to eat out of it again. But it shouldn't be, if you have that recipe that calls for half a can of tomato paste. Why is it tomato paste? You never use the whole can. You use half a can, and then you got this other left in your can that's, what do I do with it? And then finally when it starts getting moldy, you got to scrape the tomato paste out. Don't put that can half full of tomato paste or half full of anything in your recycling. It's really not fair to the workers at the MRF who are sorting through this thing. And the food does attract varmints with long, skinny, naked tails up at the waste district. I don't think they have a big problem, but the more food that's left on recyclables, the bigger problem it will be. This is a section I call disassemble. I already disassembled the milk carton Now I get the fun of disassembling the rest. This was a thing of aluminum foil, but it has the steel edge to tear the foil. I finally get to tear that off. I've not been able to do that. This is the 9th public meeting, and for 8 public meetings I had to say, I can't tear this off because I'm saving it for May 28th in the selectmen's room. That goes in the trash. This goes in the paper recycling. This was a thing of cookies, chocolate covered, really tasty. I pulled this plastic packaging out thinking it was going to be trash, but it has a recycling number on it. There's a number 7. There was a time years ago when Brattleboro only took 1s and 2s. We now take 1 through 7. So if you have a plastic container that has a recycling number, you can recycle it. So this has a number 7 on it. So it goes in that recycling, and this goes there. This one's already been disassembled. It had this little steel spout. This is a dishwasher soap. So I took the steel spout out, put it in the trash, and this goes in the recycling. This was a Kleenex box with a little plastic window that the Kleenex came out. It's just a little tiny bead of glue around the edge that holds that plastic. So you just take that off. There's nothing difficult about it. And you put that in the trash, and you put this in the recycling. This has a little plastic window, same thing. That comes off. It's not hard to do, and that goes in the recycling. This is the easiest disassemble of all. The cereal box, or it could be crackers. Now, when a lot of us in this room were youngsters, there was a time, this inside liner to your cereal was truly wax paper. And wax paper can go in curbside compost, but it's not wax paper anymore. It's plastic.
Wow.
And if you ever are in doubt, if you have something in your hands and you say, I don't know if that's paper, it's plastic, give it the tear test. If it tears easily, it's paper. If it doesn't tear, or it tears with difficulty, it's plastic. So the plastic liner goes there, the box goes in here. This is the same thing right here. Plastic liner. It's not difficult. Pizza box. I think everybody knows that corrugated cardboard, this is a corrugated cardboard pizza box. I think everybody knows that's recyclable. But this pizza tray is not recyclable. When it gets all greased up with pizza, but it's great in the curbside compost. So this goes in the curbside compost, and the box goes in the paper recycling. Do you guys see what's happening here? That everything's moving to this end of the table, and this end, or the 2 tables, and this end is all going to be reused, remanufactured into another product, like the paper items and the plastic and the metal, or it's going to be turned into rich compost. And the pile of trash gets smaller and smaller and smaller. One last item, this was earbuds, had the little wiry thing that the cord was wrapped up, that's trash. Has a plastic liner, has a recycling number 1 on it. 1s are good, so that goes in recycling. Little instruction booklet, I don't need it anymore, that's recycling. And then the cardboard box has the window again. That easy. The window again has this little plastic thing that they hung it in the store, so I'm going to put that in the trash. And this goes in the recycling. So there's another item that's not going to the landfill. It's not being driven 150 miles, it's being driven 5 miles. It's 0 a ton compared to 105 a ton. One of the biggest confusions that people in Brattleboro, and not just Brattleboro, probably any community in the United States has, is these 2 containers. We got the milk container they talked about before, and this one looks and feels the same until you give it a little closer inspection. This is called an aseptic container, and it typically has, this one had chicken broth in it, it typically has a soup broth in it, or almond milk, or soy milk. Usually in the grocery store, this is not in the refrigerated section, it's on the shelves, because some brilliant guy at who knows where, 3M or Monsanto or Dow or some packaging company, came up with a brilliant way to extend the shelf life, give indefinite shelf life to certain food products. That was brilliant. What was brilliantly bad was it can't be recycled. And these aseptic containers, if you're in doubt, cut a hole in it carefully and check inside, and this has a foil lining. The milk carton was, white on the inside, and this is silver foil on the inside. So it cannot be recycled, so it goes in the trash. Any item that's made up of a variety of materials, I think of a Pringle chip can, I think it has a metal, it's like a cardboard tube, it has a metal bottom, or a metal thing. Do not go to in crazy lengths to disassemble. If something's easy to disassemble, I recommend you do it. If it's hard to disassemble, I recommend you throw that item in the trash. You're not going to be able to reduce your trash to zero, but I think you can reduce it a lot. Oh, I know what I want to carry. Probably the other most confusing item is egg cartons, particularly the paper egg carton. A lot of people put this paper egg carton in the recycling, and a lot of people put this milk carton in the recycling. No. A lot of people put the aseptic container in the recycling. No. A lot of people put the egg carton in. This is the mistake that's easier to identify. But this egg carton, I like to think of it as sort of like a paper mache. It's a paper molded, and it's already been recycled so many times. It's been other paper products before it was an egg carton. And the wood fibers are now so short they can't be made into another paper item. So if you put this in the recycling and it doesn't belong here, the guys at the MRF are going to pick it out and they're going to throw it in the trash. Because I think when they're on the line and things are coming by on their conveyor belt, they only have so many choices. And I think, I don't know, I could be wrong, but I don't think they have a pile that they throw to curbside compost. So if something's wrong, it shouldn't belong in the recycling. It's going to end up going in the trash. So this doesn't go in the trash. It goes in the curbside recycling. Now, who can name the other two kinds of egg cartons? Paper? Styrofoam? Styrofoam, and then the clear plastic. So let's start with styrofoam first. I think most everybody's pretty familiar with what styrofoam is. This is a clamshell styrofoam container for a takeout salad or something from Village 3 Pizza. And styrofoam's always trash. So you have a styrofoam coffee cup, you have the styrofoam like this, you have a styrofoam egg carton, you have styrofoam that you might buy a product that comes in a cardboard box, so you pick up at Walmart or Brown & Roberts or shipped to you from Amazon, and it's packed with styrofoam, molded around the product. The styrofoam always goes in the trash. And this is one exception to the numbers 1 through 7 rule that I said if something has a 1 through 7 on it, you can put it in the recycling. This styrofoam has a recycling number on it, 6. But it's not recyclable. At least it's not recyclable here. There might be some community elsewhere in the United States that they do something with this. I don't shred it up and use it for, I don't know. I don't know. But in Brattleboro, and that's where we are now and today, and that's what we're talking about, this is always trash. So when you buy eggs, you can do one of two things. Oh, the clear egg carton. Let me go there. Clear. Here's something that's clear plastic. This, I don't know if it's the very same plastic, but those egg cartons are like glass clear. And you'll find that that clear egg carton has a recycling number on it. So that clear egg carton can go into recycling. So when you buy eggs, don't buy the styrofoam packed eggs. Buy either the paper if you are curbside composting, or if you're not curbside composting, buy them in the clear container, because then you can recycle that and you won't have anything from your eggs in your trash. And the egg shells, of course, can go in the curbside composting. That's the first time I've said eggshells in all these public meetings. No one's ever asked, but eggshells go in the curbside compost. I want to talk a little bit about the effect. Oh, go ahead, sure.
Tell me, on this, it says egg cartons.
As a yes or a no?
So yeah. Good.
I don't want to take up, I don't see where it is on here. I've covered the egg cartons here. Oh, that's a paper egg cartons on the compost.
Yeah,
Yes.
and that goes
Right where it is.
curbside.
Curbside compost.
Okay.
Yep,
I don't know.
yep, that's where that
Okay,
goes.
thank you.
I want to just take a brief moment to give my last pitch for curbside compost. At our house, I told you that the average weight of our trash is a little under 4 pounds a week. The average weight of our compost is about 15, I think it's 14 something pounds a week. If you put those together, and we didn't curbside compost, and if your household is like mine, and you don't curbside compost, you're going to have 18 pounds weekly, just on average. You're going to have 18 pounds weekly to put in an expensive pay-as-you-throw bag instead of less than 4. So you're going to be paying you're going to have 3, 4, 5 times the number of pay-as-you-throw trash bags if you don't curbside compost. Of our weekly weight, I told you it was about 30 to 33 pounds. The compost weighs 45%. 45%, almost half of everything we have to dispose of weekly goes in curbside compost. So it's just as important as, because close to half, well actually it's about 45% compost and it's about 45% recycling. That's 90, and the last 10% is trash. So this is the thing to do, to recycle well, and I think at this point, I'm trying to cover the items that have come up. I've done this meeting so many times, I'm starting to realize what questions come. Aerosol can, it's here with the recycling. This had cooking spray in it. Another example of an aerosol can that you could put in recycling would be whipped cream, this. And you ever notice when the whipped cream is gone, there's still a lot of pressure?
Yeah.
And it's like, man, why did you put more whipped cream in there? It's a ripoff. Well, all you have to do is let the pressure off. There's no pressure left in this, and that's why I can recycle it. You don't want to put an aerosol can in the recycling if there's still pressure in it. So if your spray cooking oil, or your whipped cream, or your deodorant, or not my hairspray, but your hairspray is the product's used up, but there's still propellant or pressure in there, just spritz it out over your trash or your recycling or not recycling, trash or compost until there's no pressure, and then you can put it into the recycling. Medicine bottles are fine in recycling, the plastic medicine bottles. They're all recyclable. Do empty the medicine out. You don't want any medications in there. Downstairs at the police station, year-round, probably 24 hours a day, you can bring medication to the police station, and outside where you pay the parking fine, there's a bin, a secure bin. You can't reach in and grab a handful of pills. I think a trap closes on your hand if you do that. Anyway, you can dispose of it. It's a good idea if you have a prescription that you don't know what it's for, you're not taking anymore. It's a good idea to get that out of your medicine cabinet and not have it be tempting to anyone else, whether it's family or strangers, to be pawing through your medications. Other medical issues, it's really not so much a recycling issue, but people who are diabetics and have to give themselves insulin shots, they probably already know this, but perhaps they don't. You can put your needles into your regular trash, but first you have to put them in a tight, rigid bottle like this, or it could be like that. But put them in a rigid bottle, fill it up with the needles, put the lid on, put a piece of tape around the lid, and then label the bottle needles or sharps. And then you can put it right into the trash. You can also take them, if you, for some reason, you feel uncomfortable putting That medical waste in your trash, you can take your needles and sharps to the waste district, and they dispose of them in a company that deals with biological waste. But we've checked the website, the Vermont website, for banned materials in landfills, and needles and sharps are not on that list, so they can go in the trash. Any other kind of medical waste, a colostomy bag, can go in the trash, pretty much the way you've been handling it now. People ask about diapers for both the very young and the very old, and those are always trash. There are a couple brands out there that claim that their diapers are compostable, but we have not seen that that's true in this facility. So even if you see diapers and you have young children or grandchildren and they're labeled compostable, we do not want them in the curbside compost. They have to go into the trash.
How about the one, the bottle bag, the soap?
So,
Yeah.
yeah, Tide, any kind of soap, hygienic dish soap, laundry soap in a plastic container is fine. And I was talking about aerosols before. You know, hairspray, I mean, you spray around your face, so you know it's not a hazardous product or deodorant. But if you have spray product like paint or an herbicide or pesticide that you might spray your roses or spray in your garden, or a harsh cleaning spray like WD-40, that's hazardous waste, and that should go in your trash. Even though you let all the pressure off, it's got a residue of hazardous waste in that can and should go into the trash. Glass, you know, if a food product came in it, this was spaghetti sauce, pickles, what other sort of things? There's more and more packaged in plastic. What else comes in glass?
Jellies.
Jellies, yeah. That's fine in recycling. You can leave the lids on or take them off. It doesn't matter. Tin cans, you don't have to take the labels off. Labels can stay on the cans. Somewhere, I may not be able to find it. A window envelope. You know, you get junk mail with a window envelope. I can't find it. The windows can stay in. You don't have to tear those little windows out. Newspapers, magazines,
Books.
that's a good question. Paperback books can go directly into recycling. If it's a hardback book, they want you to tear the hardback off and throw the hard cover in the trash and put the pages in recycling. Phone books can go there. You know, almost any kind of junk mail. If you get an envelope, this envelope's fine in recycling, but if you get one of those envelopes that has bubble wrap inside, I've tried. That can't be disassembled. I didn't try very much. You know, it became obvious that is firmly glued to the paper and couldn't be disassembled. So if it has a bubble wrap inside, it goes in the trash. This one doesn't, so it can go here in recycling. Tyvek envelopes, those kinds that you could never tear, even Hulk can't tear them, or Superman, or even a bullet won't go through them. Those are always trash, Tyvek envelopes.
What about the little metal clasp on the envelope?
Yeah, I've been told that that's okay. I think in the processing of the paper, you know, this probably gets filtered out or screened out.
Is that true of staples?
I know staples on tea bags are fine, the little tiny staples in the compost. It's such a small amount of metal, and the compost pile is this giant thing that heats up, and there's moisture in there and biological activity. That little thing's going to rust away, and it's actually going to probably add some nice iron to the compost. Little wooden boxes, berries and fruit boxes, or a clementine box, that can go into the curbside compost. And this has got little tiny staples in it. You don't be picking those out. You don't need to do that. This got in the wrong place. This was another disassembled that I get to do. And there. So now let's, I think that I've covered everything. But I do want to mention, we talked about the kitchen containers and the compostable bags. And if you find the compostable bags too expensive, and yet you still want to not have a container that's stuck with food scraps. We mentioned the milk carton, but you could also line your kitchen container with a paper bag, or you could line it with newspaper. That would be a way to keep the food scraps from sticking to the inside of the container, and then putting that right out there.
So in other words, you can put the food, a paper bag inside.
Yes, yep. All this paper would break down into wonderful compost. But if you have paper that is recyclable quality, like a newspaper, a magazine, a junk mail, a brown paper bag, the first choice is recycling, because look at this, $0 a ton. The second choice is curbside compost. It's $60 a ton, but it's still considerably less than $40 a ton. The curbside containers, I mentioned that you can get this sure close at Wyndham Solid Waste Management District. You can get, this is called Max Air, for the maximum airflow. Max Air, I believe Brown & Roberts sells the container separate from the roll of bags. And I believe it's $8.95, I'm not quite sure. For the quality of the product, you're getting a lot more for your extra dollar with this than you are here. But as we've had people attest, this really, really works well. So, it's up to you whether you want to do, or you can use any old container in your house that you already have. I'm sure that every single one of you have a container in your house already that would work fine for collecting kitchen scraps. Now the curbside cart, and this will be about one of the last things I have to talk about before we do questions. We've got a bunch of these, and if we run out, we will order more, but we still have a lot left. We had 2 cart distributions just this past Saturday, and earlier in May we had one. These, the town buys from Orbis, is the company that makes it, for about $20 each. And then we're selling them to anybody who would like to use it in their curbside compost for $10. And when the town buys them at bulk at $20 each, that's a vastly reduced wholesale price. If you were to buy this container in a store at a retail price, I'm sure it would be at least $30, if not more. So at $10, you are not going to be able to go to Brown & Roberts or Walgreens or Walmart and buy any container for $10 that's going to work as well as this one works. It's been time tested for the last 2 years, and it's worked out great. I'm sure you've probably noticed them around on the curbside. We're not having any more distribution days, but if you either email to solidwaste@brattleboro.org, it's in that, email's in that booklet, and the phone number. Either call the phone number that's in there or get in touch with me. We'll make some arrangement so you can get one of these cards in the next month.
What about the bigger one?
Just a second. After July 1st, not before, but after July 1st, you'll be able to pick these up at Wyndham Solid Waste Management District, still for $10. So we're handling the distribution between now and July 1st. After July 1st, Wyndham Solid Waste is taking that role over for us, and they'll be handing these out for $10 each. Now, if there was a complaint about these carts, because there's about 700 of them, or no, probably more like 700 or 800 of them around town. This is a complaint. Watch my face. All the way down to the end of the driveway. All the way down with 20 pounds of compost. Now, now watch my face. See? Now this is slick. Now this is not. This won't work for carry-on for United or Singapore Airlines or anything like that. So it won't do for carry-on, but it's great for getting your cart down to your curb. This handle. These carts are exactly the same. This handle just snaps in. Once it snaps in, it stays in. It's either impossible or difficult to get out. So it works pretty well without the handle, and I would say if you have a real bumpy route between your house and where your trash is picked up, like you have a gravel driveway, even with the handle, these wheels aren't that big, and you might find it, you know, bumpy and sort of tipping over and whatnot. But if you have a pretty smooth path from your house to your driveway, these are going to roll really, really nice. If it's not too heavy, they're not that difficult, even with, you know, 10 or 15 pounds of compost in there to carry like this. So it's up to you. If you wanted to get one without a handle and then used it for a month or two and decided, I really would like that telescoping handle, I think that would be handy, pun intended. You can come to the town and they'll have a supply of them around. And that handle, unfortunately, is pricey. It's $6. That's in addition to the $10. So if you want the handle and the cart together, $16. Without the telescoping handle, it's $10. And this one has this decal on it because it was sent to us as a sample, and we hadn't yet placed our order. All the carts are going to have this skier on there for Brattleboro Ski Jump, Harris Hill. And our trash bags are going to have that too. Except instead of saying curbside compost, it'll say pay as you throw. And on the bags, they'll be printed with this emblem. It'll say trash only, no hazardous waste, no leaf and yard debris, no construction debris. There'll be a phone number and a web address if you want to contact the town with any questions. If you have a problem with a bag and a bag is defective or breaks, there'll be a phone number on there for Waste Zero. And you can call Waste Zero and they'll send you a new bag. But there's one catch. They want the defective bag. I mean, you can imagine, oh, geez, yeah, it's the 10th week in a row and I had another defective bag. Could you send me a new one? And someone then is, you know, paying nothing for their pay-as-you-throw bags. So I appreciate that Waste Zero isn't just handing out and mailing bags to someone who just claims that they have a problem with a bag. But if a bag rips, you have another option. It's a kind of a hassle to call Waste Zero, and then particularly to take the old pay-as-you-throw, the ripped pay-as-you-throw trash bag, which might be full of filmy plastic, and dump that out and mail it back. You can put, if you have a damaged pay-as-you-throw bag, you can take that pay-as-you-throw bag and put it in a clear plastic bag and then put that at the curb. Then the driver can easily see through the clear plastic bag that yes, your trash is in a pay-as-you-throw bag. And they'll take it that way. So I don't think there's going to be too much problem, but you know, there's going to be thousands and thousands and thousands of bags that are put out to the curb over the course of the year. So I imagine that there's going to be a handful that, you know, tear for one reason or another. Either Waste Zero had a defect in the bag, or maybe something was sharp in the bag and tore the side. And that brings me to glass. We talked about the spaghetti jar or jelly or pickles. If you are loading the dishwasher and you drop a mug and your mug breaks, or you drop a drinking glass and it breaks, or you drop your Corningware baking dish or pie pan and it breaks, those kinds of glass, including window glass and mirrors, none of those glasses are recyclable. They all have to go in the trash. And what I recommend that you do is that, especially if they have sharp edges, is that you wrap them up in newspaper or some way make them safe, so one, they won't tear your expensive pay-as-you-throw bag, and also they won't endanger the driver. I keep thinking of stuff, and I can see that a few of you are snoozing, and I'll try to wrap this up. But I was thinking of wrapping up things in paper. A chicken that you buy, rotisserie chicken, a whole chicken, and you got the carcass left. Or bigger bird yet, a turkey at Thanksgiving. So you have a big carcass left. You're not going to jam that into this little container. So an item like that, just wrap up in newspaper and put it in your freezer or fridge, and then on trash day, when they're picking up your trash, recycling, and compost, they're going to pick up every week, put it right into your curbside compost cart. It's really a great way to handle those large bulky items or smelly items. Now I bet you guys have a bunch or some specific questions, and I've talked a lot. Yes?
You want me on this?
Yeah, sure.
2 questions. For recyclables, can you put in like the flower pots you get that are the plastic ones?
Yes, that's a really good question, and it ties in with like black plastic and dark green plastic. And it's one of those items, if it has a recycling number, it can go in recycling. But now I'm going to confuse you incredibly, because I asked Bob Spencer this very exact question about a week or 2 ago about black plastic. So you ready to be confused? Steel yourself. He said if it's black plastic or dark green and it's a 1 or a 2, it should go in the trash. And if it's 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7, you could put it in the recycling. And what's really curvy about this curveball is that typically the 1s and 2s are the most valuable plastics. Now, I'm going to speak off the top of my head, and I might be above my pay grade level, but I think the reason is the heavy dark dye that makes black plastic black, or dark green plastic dark green. When they mix it in with all the other 1s and 2s, which are typically this color, basically mucks up the batch when they make it into a new product. So down the line, they take those black plastics out. Now, I'm not going to fault anybody for putting a plastic container that has a recycling number on it in the recycling. The only time I would fault you is if it was styrofoam, because I think everyone should be clear that styrofoam, no matter what it says on it, goes in the trash. You had another question?
Yes, I do. And this is nothing I would do, but if you have a curbside compost trash bin, does everything that goes into that, your sloppy garbage, have to be in a container of either paper or,
Compostable bag?
yes?
No, it doesn't. And some people, I've looked in containers around town after they've been emptied, and some containers are really pretty clean, and some containers, clearly the people dump the food scraps in directly, not in any bag, and they're really caked with stuff. That obviously is a choice that homeowner is making, and their tolerance to yuck factor, their tolerance is way up here. It's way up here. I don't know what the insides of their house are, but I know what the inside of their curbside bins look like, and I don't like it. But the drivers are used to, man, they're used to anything. It doesn't fade. I mean, they might think, ugh, but they just go on to the next house and empty the next one. So no, it doesn't have to be in a special. This is this container or one like it. You don't have to buy this container. This one's great, but you can supply any rigid container that has a lid that's tight fitting, that the lid's easily removed or opened by the driver, will suffice for curbside composting. But it should be labeled compost. It could either have a decal like this. The town sells these. We've got to order more, Patrick. This is the last one. What could I sell it for? The last one.
Not a whole lot.
Not a whole lot. 50 cents, I guess. So we'll be getting more of those. And there are a number of people who do supply their own container. And they run the gamut. For some people in a single person household, this is more than they need. It's bigger than they need, or maybe they live in an efficiency apartment, and it's a real problem on where to keep this. So they might use something smaller, but we don't want the curbside compost to go out to the curb in the kitchen container or just in this bag. It's got to be in a closed container with a tight-fitting lid. It's got to be labeled compost. Yeah.
You were mentioning a bigger.
Yeah, we had a 21-gallon container, and we are sold out. And I think at this point, It's maybe more a town decision, but I believe that we're just going to stay with this container for the foreseeable future. So if people have either a large household, 5, 6, 7 people in a household, or there might be 2 families, like in a duplex, who want to share a container, and this one's too small, that at this point, the only option is either to get 2 of these or supply your own larger container. The town doesn't have any of the 21-gallon ones left, and I don't believe we're going to order any more. Yes?
I tried to mark my container, but it was impossible to use a marker on it.
Yeah, that's a
There's
really
a lot
good
around
question.
town that,
And-
you need a container, pick it up.
Yeah, and I do recommend that you mark it. And
So how,
and
what
this,
can
this,
you use to mark it?
as much as it may abhor you to do it, you might scratch your house number in it or name. You might try a different kind of marker or paint. You might scuff it up with sandpaper, and then the magic marker or paint might adhere very well. The reason it's not adhering is because it's a smooth plastic surface.
And are those recyclable?
These?
Yes.
The Waste District doesn't accept large plastic items like sheetrock buckets and larger kids' playground toys all go in the trash. And one of the reasons is when they collect, containers like this of plastic, they have a machine that presses it into a big bale that's about, 4-6 feet square. And that bale gets picked up by a forklift and put onto a truck. And when larger items like a sheetrock bucket or this, they don't crush up into the thing, and then the bale doesn't hold together and it falls apart, and it just doesn't, the mechanics doesn't work. So larger plastic items have to go in the trash. Yes?
What about cigarette butts or ashes?
That's a good question. Cigarette butts and ashes are trash, for sure. And wood ashes. This is an important one. Wood ashes from your stove, and an awful lot of people, either pellet stove or a wood stove, a lot of people in Brattleboro heat with wood, must go in your trash. And a lot of people say, well, I'll make sure they're really cold before I put them, in my curbside compost. Well, I'm sure there's plenty of people up in Chimney Hill who's had their houses burnt down because they put their ashes out on the steps on the porch in a paper bag or a cardboard box, and they thought those ashes were cold. These are getting picked up with a truck, and yeah, there's a lot of food scraps in there, but when you see this dumped out of the back of the truck up at Old Ferry Road, what you predominantly see is paper. And if there were any embers that got into that truck and that caught fire, that would put the driver at danger, and it would certainly destroy the truck and that expensive piece of equipment. So I don't care how many stack of Bibles high you want to swear on that your wood ashes are cold. I want you to put your wood ashes in the trash, which can also be an issue. But I don't know, what do you do with them now? I don't want them in the compost. And cigarette butts would be the same. Yes?
Candles, jars of candles that
My wife is a kindergarten teacher, and we just had April vacation, and we didn't go anywhere. We stayed put, and she decided to do spring cleaning. And I told you that our trash weighs a little under 4 pounds a week. Well, that week it weighed about 8.5 pounds. And the reason it weighed 8.5 pounds is because she disposed of a bunch of Yankee Candle jars that still had paraffin in them. And they were heavy in their glass. They're not recyclable, certainly not recyclable when they're half full of solidified paraffin. So a candle, whether it's solid paraffin or especially, absolutely, if it's in glass, goes into the trash. Fabric goes into the trash, or even better yet, if you have fabric that even resembles a piece of clothing anymore, there's a box at Old Ferry Road that they'll take clothing, they'll say whether it's torn or stained, they don't care. And I think what they do with the clothing that still can be repurposed as clothing, they get that to people, might be in another country, might be in the United States, but they get it to people who could use that clothing, and that's really good. For the clothing that can't be reused, I believe they turn it into rags or they make use of it somehow. But clothing, that would be the best choice, but don't put it in the recycling. People say, what about 100% cotton t-shirt? Well, one of the steps with the compost is grinding it before it composts. And there's no way that cloth is it's just gonna gum up a grinder. And it's, so many fabrics have man-made fibers, rayon and polyethylene and stuff in them that they aren't. Same with strings and yarns, cords, ropes. I don't care if you're just 100% sure that's cotton string. All strings, cords, ropes should go in the trash. Too many of them have man-made fibers in them. Yes?
Shredded paper, is it just?
Yeah, shredded paper. Most people, their solution is they shred documents. It could be bills or bank statements or medical records or whatever. Put them in a paper bag and then close the top of the paper bag and put that with their recycling. If you have a lot of shredded, if you go to town and you only shred once a year and you have bags and bags of it, I would say at that point, put it into your bags, your plastic bags that you don't know what to use with now. Go to the MRF and they'll let you dump them out directly in their pile of, they got a mountain of paper. And they'll let you dump it out directly there. But don't put it at the curb in a plastic bag. The driver will not pick it up if it's in a plastic bag. Brattleboro is still dual stream, you probably all know that. Bottles and cans and containers and plastic things in one bin, and then your paper items, the cardboard can be folded and put in its own little pile. Some people put their paper items in a paper bag, put it in that 18-gallon tote. So there's a paper bag with the paper, and then the rest of that container has the bottles and cans. That's really easy for the driver. He just grabs a paper bag, throws that in the container for paper, and then empties out the bottles and cans. But if they're mixed willy-nilly together, he's not going to go picking through it for your junk mail and whatnot. If your two dual streams are intermingled, he's going to leave it at the curb. And he's going to leave it at the curb if it's in a plastic bag, and if he's going to leave it in the curb if there's items that shouldn't be in there. Like you have a Revereware pan that you decide, well, this is metal. I'll just put it in my recycling, or my cast iron pan, or my toaster oven broke. Put those things in there. He's not going to take it. And I rode with the truck with him a couple years ago, and there's one house, I won't tell you where because I can't remember, otherwise I would. They had like a frying pan in there, and the guy said, every week I take that frying pan out and I leave it behind. And he says you would think eventually they'd get the idea that the frying pan's not accepted. And every week they put it out there. I don't know, like it's a battle of wills, but the truck driver's going to win.
So that's trash.
That's trash. Now, metal, you can take all kinds of metal to the waste district, and unless you had a truck full, if you just had a garbage can full or some isolated items, you can put them in the metal bin at Old Ferry Road for no expense. It's free. Fluorescent bulbs, the little curly-coo bulbs, are free. Paint can now be taken to the waste district. Oil paint and latex paint for free any day. Rechargeable batteries for free. Now I'm saying a bunch of free things. Not everything's free. But a really cool one is TVs, even the old ones or the new ones, TVs and any computer-related stuff. A computer monitor, the computer, a laptop, a printer, the keyboard, all the directly computer stuff, probably modems and routers, I would think. They're all free at the waste district. So that's pretty cool. That's when it really got me, once this past summer when I saw a big TV by the side of the road. Someone had dumped it there, and I'm thinking like, my God, you dumped a TV at the side of the road. Instead of driving up to that road and dumping it, you could have driven it to Old Ferry Road and they would have taken it for free. Wouldn't you have felt better about that? And we will be, a lot of people about pay-as-you-throw are concerned about illegal dumping, and everybody should keep in mind that there is illegal dumping now. And whether it increases or not, we're going to find out. And if it increases a lot, it'll be obvious. If it increases only a little bit, it may be hard to tell if it increases. But whether it's a result of pay-as-you-throw and people rebelling against pay-as-you-throw or not, if someone dumps their trash somewhere and we can identify who it was, they will get, their first fine's $100, and the second one's $250. And I don't know if there's a state fine. That's a local ordinance. I think if there's a state illegal dumping ordinance, I don't think it's as low as $100 and $250. I think it's higher. So if you dumped it outside of Brattleboro boundaries, I think you're going to be looking at $500 fine. Does anyone have any other questions about specific items? Did I answer your questions, Hugh? I know you brought some items.
How about shoes?
Shoes. Shoes can go in the Planet Aid box. They're both.
Really?
Yep. They asked that these things be put in a plastic bag. I think one that just contains it better. And when they go to empty that container, it's easier when things are in a plastic bag than if they're all just thrown in there loose. Yeah.
You answered all of my questions. Yeah. One thing I want to tell you I do on the milk boxes, I step on them and crush them down.
Good. Yeah. I do that too.
Yeah.
I rinse it out.
Yeah.
I tear the spout out. I rinse it out, and then I just do this. And this is what Hugh was saying he does. And it just takes up less space. You can see this is crushed, this milk carton, because I did the same thing. It's not a requirement. It just takes less space and however you're keeping it at your house. If you come across plastic cups or silverware, plastic silverware, that says compostable on it, you can put it in the curbside compost. If it doesn't say compostable, don't. It's trash for the cutlery. If it's a cup, if it has a number on it, it's recyclable. So your typical plastic fork, typical one, is trash. If it says compostable, you can put it in there. But please don't be putting your plastic when you have your summer picnic. Don't say, "Oh, Moss said I could put my plastic silverware in the compost." Only if it's compostable. Bob Spencer at the Waste District is very, very concerned that as more people in Brattleboro do curbside compost, that they're going to have more contamination in their material that's delivered there. And it does cause a problem, and both an extra work and lost expense. And the compost up there is now for sale. They've collected from the curbside program. They've collected enough now, and it's finally biologically broken down, which I think is magic. I mean, if you think of all the different things, the pizza trays and the paper items and the cat litter and the dog dew and the chicken carcass and the turkey carcass and the meat and the fish and the bones and the vegetable peelings and all that stuff, you think of that, all that thrown together, it just sounds like, ugh. And I swear that at night, the compost fairy comes and takes all that yucky food away, and I don't know where he or she takes it, and leaves behind this beautiful, rich compost. It is incredible what is up there for sale. And then you hold it right to your nose, and there's no odor. If there's an odor, it's like an earthy odor, like from the forest floor. It's like just beautiful, beautiful stuff. And it is for sale at either $1 for a sheetrock bucket size. So if you have just a small vegetable garden and get a few sheetrock buckets for just $3, $4, $5, you could probably get your garden going just perfect. Or if you want to buy a larger quantity and spread it as a top dressing on your lawn and your garden, whatever, they're selling at $30 a cubic yard. And that's sort of a small pickup full. It's quite a bit. And it takes about 30 sheetrock buckets is the equivalent of a cubic yard. So the two jive. We're done?
8 o'clock.
It is. I tell you, this I've done this many times, and it lasts about an hour and a half. So let me just say, are you done still taping?
I'm still going.
Okay. So if you have any questions, Pay As You Throw starts June 29th. The bags will be in the stores on June 15th. Hannaford, Price Chopper, Brattleboro Food Co-op, Dottie's, Brown & Roberts, Fireside True Value, Cumberland Farms. Starting June 15th, you can get the bags. If you have any questions, call the town, call Wyndham Solid Waste, or email solidwaste@brattleboro.org. Thank you, and happy composting. Yeah, Hugh?